fast. People are going to join or they're not going to join. Okay. So as discussed previously, just a reminder to everybody, final projects due on Monday. Again, if you are unable to realize your initial vision, that is okay. Please turn in what you have rather than just like panicking about it and not turning in anything and emailing me 3 days later. Furthermore, I seriously, I've tried to make exceptions for students in the past, and every single time it has left an extremely bad taste in my mouth, up to and including somebody trying to plagiarize. That's not fun, you know. I say attempting to, because they didn't do a very good job of it. Okay. So again, what you want to submit is just a 1 to 2 minute video. It's very easy to to record. I highly recommend using either Zoom because you have that, right? Start a new session, record your session locally to the computer, and share your screen. There you go. Yes, you can upload the video to GitHub or YouTube and submit the link to it, right? You just submit it. You basically we want your GitHub page and we want your video. Yep, Monday, December 5th. Okay, we want your GitHub page, we want your video. Okay. And honestly, we just get them in the way that to us that makes sense. So that could be on YouTube, that can be uploading the video to Canvas, that can be whatever. The other way to record is to download OBS, Open Broadcaster Software, open source program that's really good for this kind of stuff. But the Zoom thing is probably easier. Again, if you haven't had the opportunity to fill out your progress report, you should do so. Also, in terms of things you should fill out your student feedback forms, which I'm sure you've heard from a bunch of other professors. Your student feedback forms are very important for us to get feedback on how well we're doing for teaching these courses. We do take that seriously. You will find out who's exempt from the final, hopefully by Thursday or Friday. That is my goal. Not this one, but next week, right? I need time to go through to go through them and for the TAs to go through them, right? So, okay. Any questions so far on that? Again, this is fairly straightforward. Just submit what you have. Okay. Now, as far as the final exam is concerned, right, that is, I believe on the 13th, I will send out an email which has the official information on it, such as the date and time, and remind you of the place, which should be our normal room, right? And I'm sure what you're more concerned about is the contents. So as follows, I will have 5 short questions that would probably be not out of place on the first exam. So we're talking, here's some code. Tell me what the output of the code is, right? Here is a loop. Tell me what the output of this loop is. What is the result of when I call this method with these arguments? Those kind of questions, right? So, I'll get to the group thing in a minute. I want to go through the contents of the exam first, because I want to have a discussion about group stuff. Okay. There's going to be 5 short questions, basically out of CS1. For those 5 questions, and I'll have a reminder there, right? Though these are questions that could be easily answered by just running them in an editor or in idle or in an IDE, or just basically running the program or the code. So for those, you still have access to OpenBook, OpenNote, whatever, but you're not going to be able, but for those questions, you don't use the editor. Then you'll have a bunch. Then once those 5 questions are done, you'll have the more comprehensive questions. There will be 4 or 5 of them, and you're going to choose. I'm deciding between 2 or 3 of them. Okay. I figured out what 4 are. If I can figure out a 5th one, I'm going to throw it in there. But the 4 questions I have so far are regular expressions, which I covered yesterday. And again, if you want to learn more about that and you saw how easy that kind of thing could be, if you spend about 2 hours learning the lingo, really, it just takes about 2 hours to get it down. Then that can be one of the questions you do. Just check out the videos from previous semesters or on their online tutorials. There's going to be a file reading question of the type that we've seen on exams 2 and 3. So here's a file. I have some numbers in the file or some names in the file that I care about. Okay. Right. I think the one that I asked for exam 3 is a pretty good example of that. Speaking of exam 3, right? So you probably had it graded. If you have a issue with any of the grading that was done, please let me know. We can discuss that. You can, during a time that we also set up for doing demos. Perfectly happy to discuss any arguments you might have with the rubric being correctly or incorrectly applied to your answer for exam 3. Okay. So regular expression, file reading question. My third question is a question that will be like, it's not something you've seen before, but I'm telling you what it is now. And I've mentioned it a couple of times. It's giving you a file that runs a turtle program. And then I have a bunch of questions asking, so what is this gobbledygook? If I change this variable, what does that control the turtle doing? If I change this variable, what does that control the turtle doing? And why is that significant? Those kind of things. So I have like a bunch of nonsense variables in there, like eero or whatnot. All right, you don't have a grade for exam 3. Email me. Did you submit it? Or did you send me, I believe you sent me, or did you send me your code? Or I remember there were some students who had trouble. All right, yeah. Did you get my reply back about for sending me the code or sending me the code via Google Drive? Okay. Email me again. Your TA may not have understood what to do with it, so I'll just simply grade it on my end. Okay. So just send me an email to remind me to do that. Okay. No worries, right? If you took the exam and there is an issue and there's not a grade there, please do not panic. Just make some noise and let me know about it. That's all. Okay. So regex, file reading question, turtle program analysis, and finally a Monte Carlo of a board game using a die roll. That's a dice rolling game, single-sided die. Okay. I will tell it. And as far as the complexity of the game involved, it's not a scam or anything like that. We are literally seeing, I want to see it's literally analysis of an outcome of a game designed to teach toddlers the concepts of taking turns and cooperating with each other. It's a very simple board game. I'm not saying that to infantilize you or anything. I like the game. It makes a very excellent question. I got a direct message saying, is it open book or like exam 1? And then I got another question from Tony. So the answer is that first off, the entirety of the exam is open book, open note. You can use your code editor everywhere except for the first 5 questions. Okay. So it's like exam 2 and 3. And I'll have reminders up like saying you cannot use your editor or idle or for these first 5 questions. Make sense? So it's open book, open note, just like the last 2, except that the restriction for the first 5 questions, there's no coding. Everything else you can use every tool at your disposal, like normal. Tony asks, are the RuneScape, great game, readings and exam exercises still due before the final exam or by December 5th? I would like them turned in by December 5th, but honestly, I'll be trying to run it December 5th so you have a good idea of what your grade is going into the final exam. But I mean, if you but I'll be running it again right before I enter final grades. So turn it in by so final exam is the hard deadline for that. Okay. So, okay. So now with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at some stuff I dug up from my personal GitHub account by going through my history. All right. Because I have some defunct final exams that I'm never going to, that I've either used those questions or I'm not going to use those questions for. So like for here, this was the exam I gave when I first taught 1051, I think, back when I was doing, I think this was when I started in Japan. I will try to tell you before the weekend, before Friday. I'll try to tell you by Friday that you're exempt. You will get an email. Everybody who is what will happen is that you will get an email. You'll get an announcement saying that the winners have been chosen, and then, sorry, everybody who's won will get an email. Okay, everybody who's won will get an email, and then everybody will be notified that winners have been chosen. So if you did not receive an email, you'll know that you were not chosen. I don't know if I'll be releasing this, but this one is, we can see some regular expression questions here. Write a function that will place all strings matching a social security number with redacted in a given file. Oh yeah, see what I mean? I'm a big fan of doing this kind of question, right? All right, so we've got a list of lists called equal to this. So we have 987, 654, 321. What is the length of LL? How big is this list? Well, this is 3. It has 3 items in it. It has list 1, list 2, and list 3. Okay. What is LL sub 1? Well, let's see. This is index 0, index 1, index 2. So index 1 would be 654. And now the last one is, what is sum of L2? In other words, let's figure, what is L2? L2 is 3, 2, 1. So L2 is 3, 2, 1. So we're asking for the sum of that, which would be 6. Now let's go ahead and do just another quick question on that kind of thing. If I wanted to get LL1. No, yes, it should be LL2. Typo. All my exams have all my paper exams have at least one typo in them, and it's completely unintentional. It's why I have a disclaimer at the top of my paper exam saying that there are no deliberate mistakes on it, and that if you see a mistake, please let me know. I'm not trying to trick you. All right, so we have so we see the 6 in that list. Okay, I'm actually gonna underscore it. So we have L. All right, we have X and we have Y. All right, so what should X and Y be so that we can get this 6? Yeah, yep, that is right. So we want to get we want to get this list that it's part of, which is index 1. And then we want to get the first item in that, which is 0. So we want to get, so in total, this would be 1, 0. Oh, hey, you recognize this question, I'm sure. That was, I think, a practice question. Okay. Okay. So what I was saying is that basically you have some LL X. We have, so this is a list of lists. So so if I pass in 1 over here, so if I pass in 1 for X, then that resolves into this list over here, which is the 654. So essentially this gets translated to 6, 5, 4, index Y. And then I want the 6 in there, which is at index 0 in that. So the full answer becomes we want 1, 0. Okay. Okay, we've seen that before. Sum of 3s, given a list of integers, return the sum of all integers that are multiples of 3. Given a list that contains many lists. In that case, you'd probably be doing, that is probably one I might put down, nested lists. A nested loop question, a question that requires a nested loop to solve. That's probably a good 5th question. Yeah, that's actually a very good 5th question. All right. Given a list that contains many lists of integers, return the sum of all the integers in the list that are multiples of 3. Half credit is given if the integers work on a list of integers as opposed to a list of lists. So how would we solve this one? Well, let me go ahead and desktop. I'm going to call this, I know you can't see, I'll share in a second. Scratch.py. Okay. So yeah. So the question was, and I will simply just grab, paste. Ooh, that's very colorful. And boom, that was nice. That was nice and easy. And Alt Z. No, that pulls up. I just installed AMD's driver, which installed a thing, which means now that when I do Alt Z, it does what I don't want it to do. Word wrap. There we go. Return the sum of all integers in the lists that are multiples of 3. Okay. Def sum of 3. Numbers. So for number, so here we've got our total for number in number list. Sorry, for number list in numbers so that iterates over each individual list. So the singular list, this guy, then this one, then this one. So we get our list for each n in the number list. If n mod 3, because we're checking if it's divisible by 3, equals 0, total plus equals 3. Return total. Right. I did put a pin on something and I didn't mention it. So, all right. So here's the thing. I don't know whether or not I want to make this have a group component as well. If I do make it, not plus equals 3, plus equals n, because I was thinking and typing at the same time. That's why I did that, because I was thinking and typing and talking at the same time. It's very hazardous. So I don't know what your feelings are about doing the group exam or not. Right. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and create a quick poll for that. Yeah, that's the issue. It's the accommodation issue. It's basically for people who have to take it at an earlier time. You know, I feel like it's one thing for the exam where it's easier to work out. Right? It's an easy, yeah, that's so there's a couple reasons. Yeah, that was one of the reasons. I don't think I'll create a poll. I don't think I'm going to do a group version for this. And here's why. Okay. The first reason is because we have, so there's a couple reasons. One, I want to give people plenty of time to work on the final. Two, I want to give, I want to make sure people have the opportunity to, you know, if you have accommodations, I don't want people to, you know, suffer adversely for that. Three, you know, we're going to have a number of people exempt as well, right? Which means that they're not going to be there to help the groups in the final exam, right? So, I don't know, but at the same point, I see a lot of people in chat really like that. So I don't know. What are people's opinions? Please let me know. I mean, the people who need accommodations, what happens is that you know, if you don't take it, it doesn't hurt you. Your grade, your group grade, just because your group grade becomes the other one. Sorry, your group grade becomes your solo grade. All right. Untitled poll. Okay. Edit. All right. Let me see what people's opinions are. Okay. Despite everything I've said, I will pull that. So poll. All right. Go ahead and answer your question. Answer the poll question, please. And what I mean by group final, I should be clear here, is that what I mean by that is that, again, it has a group portion. It probably will be a less, however, that said, I'll probably, if I do a group final, then it will probably be something around, you know, an 80-20 split rather than a 70-30 split. All right. So as we can see here, it's pretty lopsided as to what people want. All right. The best I can tell you is I will think about this. Okay. The best I can tell you is I will consider it. Okay. Because again, we're dealing with an 1.5 hour time period here. So we do have more time. It's not an 1.5 hour, 1 hour, 50-minute time period. On the other hand, I want to make sure that there's enough time to actually answer all the questions. And I do need to ask these questions. Make sense? So that's going to be like the first and foremost. Does the assessment fit within the time period? Okay. And despite that, you know. All right. So I will let you know when I send out the details for the result. Okay. But it is very useful to know that people like it that much. All right. So here is no annotate. Okay. Going back here, annotate, clear. Okay. Go back to sharing. Let's see. No, new share. There we go. Okay. Done. That was a question I've given. This is a question I've given to you before. Now, here's one of the questions that I gave you in exam 3. So I wanted to go over this one. Sorry, specifically, this was in the exam 3 group portion, which is about a set in Python. Sets are extremely useful. So as you probably read, sets are these extremely useful data structures. They are exactly like mathematical sets, which if you've learned them, great. If not, think Venn diagrams. That's what sets are. They're unordered. And essentially what they are is that they're unordered checklists. You just care if it's in the checklist or not. Mm-hmm. So here's the operations and the things to do a set. So we've got S is equal to this to make a new set. Add something to a set by doing s.add item. If it's already in the set, it does nothing. How big is the set? Sorry, if the item is in the set, you can tell if something is in the set by asking the Boolean expression item in S. That will give you true or false. And then this tells you how big the set is. What is the set good for? If you want to keep track of things you've seen. Basically, one example is that if you've got a word list for like Wordle, if you want to check if the word the user is entering is actually a real word, you can ask a set. And you can just simply say, okay, I've seen the word versus I've not. So write a script given a file name from the command line. I've already done that for you. That's what this is. Returns a unique number of words in the file. Don't worry about handling punctuation. So the way this one works is actually fairly straightforward. So we want to know the number of unique words. Now, there was an alternate interpretation, which is words that only appeared once. That is not what I meant, but I honored that interpretation. But what I meant is the number of how many different words there were, right? So write a script that given A, this string over here contains 5 unique words. Write a script that given, because A is a 6th word, but it's appeared once already. So what we can do is that we can add each of the words into the set, and then we can just check how big the set is. That is how this one works. So what we would do is that we would say set is equal to S is equal to set. Okay. Actually, what am I doing? I think I've got my pen over here somewhere. I've dropped it over somewhere, I'm sure. Let's see. Like I had the pen there. That is annoying. You know, these Wacom tablets need the specific pen. I used it this morning. And of course, now it's gotten up and left. Oh, well. It is what it is. So you have your set. Okay. So we've created a new set. And then basically what we can say is we can do our text. Here, let's go ahead and not subject you to my handwriting and instead just copy it. Copy it into here again. New share. Okay, import sys, file name is equal to system.arg. That does that part. So that one was S is equal to a set. These are the words I've seen. Then text is equal to open file name dot comma read, right? And then words is equal to text dot split. And we'll split on the spaces. Or if you did commas, that was fine too. I just simply said, don't worry about the punctuation. Words are separated by spaces. If you ignore punctuation, that's all that differentiates one word from another. Okay. And then for word in words, there's two ways to do this. The first is that we can use the if statement, which is if word is not in S, our set, and then add it to the set. And then what we're going to do is that, so we've added our words to the set now. If it's already in the set, we don't do anything. So we've added every word to the set now. And then we simply do, we can just simply print out the length of S to say how many unique words there were, right? If we've seen this word before, add it to the set. Sorry, if we've not seen this word before, add it to the set. Otherwise, just move on. And that will give us how many different kinds of words there are, or how many different words there are. We can skip a step too by just simply saying, add the word to the set, because if you add a word to the set and it's already in there, it's not going to do anything. Sets can either have an item or don't have the item. They don't have quantity. So, okay. New share, going back to this one. And guess what else was on that final exam? The other question I've given here. Now, this one, for those of you who weren't in the know, you might have heard some people yell or exclaim, "Oh, FizzBuzz!" during the group portion. That the group. So I found what the group portion. One thing the group portion is good for is asking questions that people may have meta knowledge about. Right? FizzBuzz is one of those questions that, if you do know about programming and stuff, and been watching some random YouTube videos or stuff, you might have heard about. FizzBuzz is kind of the classic, questions. I will go to I'll go back to the code because we're going to be coding up FizzBuzz in a second. FizzBuzz is one of those classic interview questions. And it's kind of and honestly, it's actually it's actually what it is. I don't go into it here, but it's actually a mathematics drinking game where basically people sit around in a circle and try to say the right numbers, or fizz or buzz. And if you get it wrong, drink. That is the objective of it. So what it is that so this was on the group portion. Write a function that prints out the numbers 1 to n. For any multiple of 3, print fizz. If it's a multiple of 5, print buzz. For numbers that are both 3 and 5, print FizzBuzz. Sample outputs are on the next page. So for the numbers 1 to 20, it's 1, 2, fizz, 4, buzz, fizz, because 6 is a multiple of 3. 7, 8, fizz, buzz, 11, fizz, 13, 14, FizzBuzz, 16, 17, fizz, 19, buzz. Okay, so that's what FizzBuzz is. The next one would be the next item in the sequence for 21 would not be 21, it would be fizz. Now I like this one because this is kind of a classic, just kind of if a person says they have a computer science degree, this is kind of the way to kind of check. Are you sure? So, because if you put somebody in front of the computer, they can test this and they can see what kind of issues they're coming up with. Because there is because what happens is that there's generally a non-intuitive kind of response, especially in Python. Okay. So what do I mean by that? Okay. The most common thing for FizzBuzz, and I will share this file. The most common thing we see with FizzBuzz, okay, this is the most common mistake we see, which is for in range n, if n is divisible by 3, print fizz. If n is divisible by 5, print buzz. Else print I. Sorry, not n, but I. Now there's a ton of errors I put in this one, and that was deliberate on my case. Okay. This is not anywhere near the correct answer, but this is like one of the first. So if we do 20, we'll see that we get a very bad output. In fact, what I need to do here is comment that out. Okay, so what we get over here is fizz buzz 1, 2, fizz 3, 4. So why am I getting fizz buzz before I get 1? Oh, because right, I starts at 0, so I want to start from 1. Okay. Okay, now let's do that. So I also like it because it's kind of got an iterative design to it as you mess up. 1, 2, fizz 3, 4, buzz. Oh, right. And then let's go to 15, where we have, instead of 15, we have fizz, then buzz, then 16, not fizz buzz. So a couple things have gone wrong here. We have if statements, which means that when you do 1, 2, and we get to 3, this executes, then we check against if 3 is divisible by 5. It's not, so we print out 3. So what we really need is we need these to be independent clauses of each other. But it doesn't help over here in 15. What happens in 15? We just print out 15, no buzz, because we went down this branch. So one solution that we can do that, we can use, so the thing here is that there are a ton of solutions to this, and I'll proceed to show them to you as follows. One solution, which is kind of just what you would get if you simply go through and kind of fix your errors as you hit them, is to do this. Right? If it's divisible by 3, then if it's divisible by 5, print fizz buzz. Else print fizz. Or you realize that these maybe should be on the same level together. So we can do if. So another solution, and one that that's probably that most people come up with, is if it's divisible by 3 and 5, print fizz buzz. Otherwise, if it's divisible by 3, print fizz. Otherwise, if it's divisible by 3, print fizz. Otherwise, if it's divisible by 5, print buzz. Otherwise, print I. And then we see we get, okay, well, we don't go up to 20, so we can just solve that by going +1. That's one of those minor things that that's easy to fix enough. There we go. And that's another kind of solution we get to this problem. Another solution is disregard everything I just told you. Go back to our original bad solution. Which is that we do, where we do output is equal to empty string if fizz is divided by 3, output plus equals fizz. If it's divisible by 5, output plus equals buzz. If length of output is 0, output plus equals stri. It is disgusting. And that should work just fine, I think. Oh, right. Except, of course, I have to actually print. Yeah, there's a number of ways to do this. There's a couple clever ways to do it in, there's a couple of different ways. Yeah, there's a couple of clever ways to do it, but I mean, there's just a lot of ways, but what you're supposed to notice is that like the 3 and the 5 conflict with each other, and you have to come up with another one. The final one was the let's go through. The final way to do this was let's go through all the cases, which is if I is I mod 3 equals 0 and I and basically it was just 4 if statements that I'm not going to bother completing, which because they look like this. And I think you can figure it out from there. Yep. There are some like one of those, creating over the top regex solutions is like one of those things that happens in for computer science LOLs. Okay. New share, going back to the final. Okay, do I have anything else? Let's see. No, this was not a good one. Right. And I mentioned that for, let's see. Now this is what I gave you earlier. Let's see. We'll go back to this one in a second. Actually, let's do this one now. Project Euler problem 5. 2520. So this would be a good nested loop question. 2520 is the smallest number that can be divided by each of the numbers from 1 to 10 without any remainder. What is the smallest positive number that is evenly divisible by all numbers from 1 to 20? So let's go ahead and write a problem that solves that. F Euler 5 N. Sorry. Oh, right. You can't see that. So 1 second. Copy. New share. Why am I doing it like this? Because it just makes sense for me to do it like this. because otherwise you get treated to the widescreen format in the recording, and I don't think that you want that necessarily. Euler 5. What's the smallest number what's the smallest positive number that is evenly divisible by all the numbers from 1 to 20? So let's see. This one, basically, we want to, so we know that 2520 is the smallest number that can be divisible by each of the numbers from 1 to 20 without a remainder. Pretty sure it's not divisible by 11, so so that's a good place to start. Start is equal to 2520. So, and what we need to do is that we need to basically just check each number. Let's let that be n. And then I don't know how I'm going to structure my loop, so I'm going to do a false while not done. What we're going to do is that we are going to check to see if n is divisible by all the numbers from 1 to 20. So for I in range, um, 1 to 20 up to, but not including 21. If I mod, let's see. So what we want to do is we want to check to make sure that it does all the numbers. Let's see, check all the numbers from 1 to 20. If any of them stop, there's no need to do, we could do a super long if statement, but why? So we want to check for a range in 1 to 20. So there's a couple ways to do this. We could use a break statement, like do something like this. If I is equal to that, but what we need to do is we need to keep a track. We need to use basically some kind of extra variable, divisible. Oh, we already have one. We can say, well, not done. Let's assume we are done because we found the number. Okay, that's how we'll do this. So while we're not done, we'll assume that we are done and that we found the number, but first we got to test it. And now if n mod by I, we check if n is divisible by I. And if that is, so if that is not equal to 0, if it's not divisible by that number, then we did not finish. Done is equal to false at that point. If done, and then what we say is that, oh, nope. We'll do that over here. Okay, so basically what we're going to say is as follows. And yes, there's one important part of this that is very important part of this that's missing. All right, so we start at 2520. We say done is equal to false. While we're not done, let's assume done is true. We're assume that we are done, that n is the number that is divisible by all numbers from 1 to 20. We check all the numbers from 1 to 20 against this number. If it's not cleanly divisible by any one of those numbers, well, we didn't find that our assumption was false. So we set done is equal to false. And then we go on and we need to now go on to the next number. And what we'll do is that for simplicity's sake, and because of the way I've constructed this, what I'll do is I'll increment over here at the beginning. So we'll start at 250 at 220 at 2520 over 1. Return, and then we return n. Once this loop is done, n is our number. And now let's see, does this run in a reasonable amount of time? Is the question. Ooh, it's actually taking a while. Right? Yep, there's a couple ways to do it, but okay. Is it actually running? That's one of the things now I have to check. Print N. Oh, it's running. All right. So now we got to try to optimize this sucker. Well, first thing we can do is we can start at 2. For that's one thing. Okay. And we can also, and so we know that if it's going to be divisible by 2. Oh, and that's another thing. If it's going to be, we know it's got to be divisible by 2. And we also know it's got to be divisible by 10. So we know it's got to be divisible by 2. So in other words, it's got to be this number, because it's got to be divisible by all the numbers from 1 to 20. But also because it's got to be divisible by all the numbers from 1 to 20, we know that it's got to be divisible by, 10. So rather than going up by 1s, let's go up by 10. So we'll check 25, 30, 25, 40, 25, 50. In fact, since we know it's got to be divisible by 20s, we can skip that and go up by 20s. And that should help find that number very quickly. Is that what you got, Wei Yang? The problem, that's one of the things about Project Euler. They take some optimization to do. Yep, that's what I got to. Great. Awesome. Okay. So now new share. All right. Oops, resume share. All right, sum of digits is permutation. All right. So let's go ahead and look at some problems from a local host is fine. You just, whatever makes sense. You can demo your project from a local host. So some questions that, let's see. Well, so let's take a look at some of those kind of problems I ask from oh, this is in Java. What a shame. I was sure I had one pulled up that was in Python. Give me one sec. Okay. So let's take a brief look at some of those, at one more of those questions that we would see in, really? Why are you not opening in my, okay, whatever. New share. Okay. All right. So this should look similar. This is what I've done for exam 1 before. All right. Probably familiar with that, but hey, these kind of questions from exam 1, right? Because again, I said I'd be asking a series of exam 1 style questions over here. So here we've got X, Y, and Z. And I want to know what the output is of the following code. X, Y, and Z, Z, Y, and X over here. So here's the thing. X is equal to 5. So we put 5 over to here because that's what X is. Z is equal to 3. So we put 3 over here. and y is equal to 2. Put over there. So this is, remember, completely positional, meaning this goes over here, meaning that these values are for z, x, y over here, 2. Oh, let's see. So sorry about that. Backed up too far. 5. So 2, 3, 5, 5. So these values are 2, 3, and 5. So z is equal to z plus 1. So that makes z 3. Y is equal to y minus x. 5 is equal to 5 minus 3. Sorry, 5 minus 3 is equal to 2. So 2 gets stored in y. And then finally, x is equal to z minus y. 3 minus 2 is equal to 1. And then what is the output of the following code? It is, oh yes, because I like making my things easy to check. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, the variables don't match when you call them in a different order, right? All arguments are completely positional, and what happens over here is completely different than what happens over here. If I were to have a print function, so if I were to change this code right over here to have a print right below the stupefy, to have print, let me go ahead and erase. So suppose we run this code and all I've done is before main, I add print. So still in the main function, I have print x, comma, y, comma, z. What would print out next after stupefy? Well, it wouldn't be 1, 2, 3. It would be 5, 2, 3. Why? Because that's what XYZ is in main. The names of variables and functions only apply to being inside that function. Make sense? Something to remember. Okay. Opal, facet, bright, cut, luster. Right. So I just made up words here. It's something I often do when I'm doing this kind of stuff. What is the output when 1, 2, 3 is called? So 1, 2, 3, 4 is called. So we pass in 1, 2, 3, 4. If bright plus 3, if 2 plus 3 plus facet, which is 1, if that's greater than 4 times 3. So if it's equal, so is that side greater than 12? No, it is not. Else if facet, which is 1, is less than or equal to cut, which is 3. That's true. And bright, which is 2, is less than luster, we'll print out floral. So these kind of questions I do enjoy as well. But as you can see there, if you have access to an editor, you're just like, and copy paste and I'm done. So that's again why I'm restricting you for the first 5 questions. Okay, so again, 5, 3, 2, 0. What is the output? Now this one actually doesn't require much thought because we put a 0 over here. So we've got 3 numbers, none of which are negative, being added together, and we're asking if that's greater than 0 times something. So yeah, that's going to be greater. So that's going to be floral. Sorry, that's going to be flawed over here. That's going to be the first output. All right. This last one, again, is straightforward and can be left as an exercise. I'll try to send some of these along to you for practice purposes. Let's see. Right, a for loop that prints the following. Nah. All right. Let's just do one last one in the editor so we can kind of check it. Okay, new share. Which is, let's see. So for I'm range 10. If J divided by, let's see. If I divided by 5 equals 0, print summation. And rather than printing an exclamation, actually, let's do total is equal to total plus 1. Total is equal to 0. So the question is, what is the output of this code? Right. Again, kind of the basic stuff that's just easy for us to kind of grade and check. So this question, right, depends on a lot on what we put here in this if statement. So in this case, first off, basically what we're looking for is how many times this plus equals 1 is going to execute. So first off, we know how many times this over here is going to execute. Ignore this outer loop, ignore the inner loop for a second. If it wasn't there, we'd know that total would be equal to 10, right? No problem there. On the other hand, if total were equal to, in the other hand, with this, well, we have this statement that executes 5 times each time that this runs. But this statement only executes if I mod 5 is equal to 0. So that's true on 0. 0 mod 5 is equal to 0. And 5 mod 5 is equal to 0. So this executes, basically, this executes twice. Well, it executes twice and then 5 times. So the grand total should be 20. Because now if this is J, this becomes very different. If J is mod 5, range in 10, 4. So basically this is saying only execute this once. I think that would be 20 as well. Unintentional on my part. All right. So that it is 3:06. So let's go ahead and summarize for the very end. 5 short questions of the type you'd expect to see on exam 1. The only prohibition on those is that you can't use idle or an editor or your Python interpreter to solve that. Then there will be 5 questions, 4 or 5 questions, choose 2 or 3, depending. I'll give you the instructions. those 5 questions will cover a range of topics: regular expressions, file reading, reading code and analyzing code, reading and analyzing code, Monte Carlo approximations, and handling nested operations with loops. All right. So, I just want you to know that. Do you actually get extra credit if we do more than you ask for? No, I have to figure out how to do how to implement choose multiples questions in these Canvas exams. So we'll see. I will let you know if there's a group format or not. But overall, I just want to say you should be proud of yourself for the progress you have made in this class. I know it may feel intimidating that some people may have done more than you, or you still feel very confused. That is okay. You're a lot. Computer science is a huge field. Programming is a huge field. And this is just merely an introduction. The objective of the end of this class is to let you see how far you've progressed and to show you that you do have a lot to be proud of. I really enjoyed teaching this class. And I'm sorry that we couldn't be there in person for today. It's also part of the reason I'm ending this class a bit early, because my throat just can't take it anymore. So but again, there's a lot to be proud of. Now, if you're interested in progressing further in computer science, your next class will be 1068 with Professor Fiore, and then 2168, which I along with a bunch of other professors teach a section of. So object-oriented programming, then followed by data structures. So those are great next steps if you want to continue programming. If if this is your last class at Temple, then or part of your last batch of classes at Temple, then I wish you the best of luck. And I can't wait to see what everybody's projects are. All right. So that is it for our last class. I hope you have a easy time studying. My last piece of advice is that, considering that this will be like on the second week of finals, if I'm recalling correctly, then just be sure to pace yourself in terms of studying. Okay. Yep. I believe the final is on December 13th. I will send out an email so it's written down in stone. All right. Now, finally, if you need to take care of demos or otherwise speak with me, please send me an email to schedule. I normally I'd stay behind, but again, there's only so much my throat can handle right now. So just send me an email. All right. Take care.
Take care, Professor. Have a good one.
Thank you. Thank you.